Hi, my name's Eric Wensensen, and I usually don't post videos of myself, typically on my station, I should say typically on my channel. And I usually just put up stuff that isn't on YouTube that I own and that I do kind of profiles on for my friends on Facebook and for anybody else who cares, and then just put it up so people can hear it. And because, well, I think all music should be able to be heard, even though I still encourage everybody to go pay the artist after you've heard it and you like it. So, just to give a little bit of an excuse from why this is not going to be the most professionally done video, I have tried to get the lighting as best as I can in here so that it isn't completely and totally drowning out everything. But anyway, this is off of TKR's 10 albums you own that you don't think anybody else owns challenge. I originally saw the challenge on Noble's Records, and I didn't know it was a challenge. I just thought it was him showing off 10 records that he didn't have because, well, he's really into a lot of the rare psychedelic and garage music. So I just figured, hey, this is going to be another one where he shows off some stuff that hopefully I'll run into in a garage sale or estate sale someday for $1 that's worth a couple hundred. But no, it was a little bit of a contest here. I also figured out it was a contest after watching Vinyl Richie basically call out half of YouTube to come on here and do this. So I figured I'd go ahead and do what I can in my own little amateur way to show off a few things that I have that might be interesting and that other people might not have. First thing, that I'm going to show is this guy here. Now, I know you're going to say, hey, I've got that. Everybody has that. It's Elvis Hitler's Disgraceland. Now, this is the rarer one. I'm going to put it over here to try and get the computer not to reflect so much at the moment. This is the rarer copy. It's the original self-release copy, not the one that ended up on Restless with a completely different cover. Still same track list and everything. But what is unique about this particular copy is this stuff that was inside of it. Now, I originally got this at a place that is kind of still in existence in Tempe, Arizona, called Eastside Records. Now it's called the Ghost of Eastside Records, and it's in a different place, but this is still when they were at their original location. I got this, but this information here with this press information and everything, that's all Xeroxed and different things here. This was basically Jim Levy, who is the lead singer of Elvis Hitler and the persona of Elvis Hitler. This was basically his pitch to Big Time Records to sign him and his band and release Disgraceland for better distribution, because of course this was on Wanghead Records in 1987, and he out of New Boston, Michigan, and it was a very, very limited release. So he was trying to get a record deal basically with one of the independent records, and so he was trying with Big Time here in Hollywood, California. Eventually ended up on the Enigma imprint Restless, and actually got a little bit of attention for his version of Purple Haze called Green Haze that incorporated the lyrics to the theme song from Green Acres over Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze. However, that's a little novelty thing that's on here. A lot of this here, though, is a lot better than that. Actually, it's that is the intro to getting into it. But yeah, lots of great stuff on here if you're into psychobilly. So, second one I am going to show that I'm pretty sure nobody has is Pitchnarcic. Now, the label part on here is 1 troy ounce of silver, 0.999 fine silver. Most of them were released that way. There are some with white on them, and well, I should say white labels. A couple of them do have the full cover, but no, this was not purposely cut out by anybody or by some collector. This is how it was distributed. It comes with the lyrics. Basically what it is Pitchnarcic sings astrology. And got a lyric insert. You got a certificate of ownership, which my dad never filled out here, but it is filled out by Mark Anthony, who was Pitchnarcic. And of course, the album itself, and get it out of here without touching a whole bunch of stuff, is a blue vinyl album with that silver label in the middle there. There were about 100 of these made. He mainly distributed them to some people he knew and some friends. I think a few went out to radio stations locally in the Phoenix area, as well as few to some local record stores. I wouldn't be surprised if, since this came out in 76, I can't remember if Roads to Moscow was around in 76. That was a big record store that was in downtown Tempe that closed long before I was allowed to go into record stores and buy stuff myself. But it would have been places like that that this may have been sold. But it is a psychedelic folk album. It is actually really, really good. Now, the reason I have it is because it was out of my parents' record collection. And no, my parents were not big folk psychedelic collectors. My parents, my dad was born in 38, my mom in 42. So they loved country music. My dad loved country music and jazz. My mom loved the easy listening stations. So this was basically there because Mark Anthony was the son-in-law of our neighbor, to our next door neighbor. And so since they were friends of the family, that's how we ended up with this. And it is worth a decent amount of money now too, because people have discovered it, and it has gotten some bootleg distribution. But yeah, it's always great to have the original and keep it around and everything. As for anybody wondering whatever happened to Mark Anthony, he was married at the time to their daughter Clara. He had a couple kids. I believe last I knew moved to Colorado. And if he and his wife are still around, then I'm sure they're living nice and happily. He remained pretty much the hippie musician for most of his life, from what I can remember. But unfortunately, been years, so most of the families, you can understand, are not around to actually say where he may be anymore. But yeah, it's a very interesting album, and I said only 100 officially made, maybe a few promos on top of that, but definitely not something you're going to find on a regular basis. Now, something that was made for more regular distribution around the valley, I know I'm going very Arizona-centric here, but it's supposed to be stuff that other people don't really have. And as far as I know, a lot of the vinyl community is not specifically around here in Arizona. So I figured these would be some things that might be out there, you might have heard of, but that might not exactly be the first things that popped into your collection. Radio architecture. Now, I found out about these guys on a collection called High Desert Zona, which I decided to do LPs and a few 45s, a few 7-inches. A lot of my rare stuff that a lot of people wouldn't have is on cassette, but including their first release. This was their second release. The first release was just a cassette EP or demo, but then they went ahead and recorded this more in a more professional recording studio in Scottsdale. And this was released, and I heard without that Kiss and Children of the Earth were on the High Desert Zona collection that came out in '88. That also had a lot of other interesting Arizona groups, not just Phoenix area, but also Tucson, like Al Perry and the Cattle. It did have 24 Hour World, Fourth Generation Rain, as well as some stuff from Theater of Ice on there. Now, I almost grabbed something by Theater of Ice here, but I decided that there was enough Arizona stuff. So, well, Theater of Ice, I know, originally from out in the middle of nowhere, Nevada, but by the time I heard about them, they were a local band here on the west side of Phoenix. Radio Architecture is kind of a new wave alternative band. They started off more on the synth pop side, but by this they were pretty much in line with alternative music from the time. And it's called To Have or To Be. It is a really, really good album. Along with the typical sounding alternative stuff, it has a song on here called Go Where the Rain Goes, which is more of an extended song, and starts going over into kind of the Paisley Underground type sound as well. So now let's get out of Arizona for a bit with this little guy here. Now this one is in rough shape, at least the record is. The cover's not so bad. But I got this at a Goodwill and was surprised to find out how much it's worth. It's called the Burgundy Five. It could either be called Meet the Burgundy Five, or down here where you might not be able to see it, it says There's a Meeting Here Tonight. And it's just what it looks like. It's a bunch of college kids getting together and doing a folk band, very much in the style of the early to mid 60s with the folk revival, very much in the style of the Weavers or Kingston Trio, more on the Kingston Trio side because it doesn't really have a whole lot of political bite to it or anything like that. It's more fun, get together, play a bunch of folk music, even though there's a meeting here tonight. Would be a fun thing to all of a sudden blast in the Amazon work in the Amazon warehouse if you work there, just to start getting the bosses nervous. So, but yeah, this thing, the band is from they were got together at Viroqua High School. I think I'm pronouncing that right, in Viroqua, Wisconsin. So they basically formed it, and then, well, early in college, they went ahead and made the record. It's on Sarah Records. Try and get that in there correctly. There we go. And it is one of those that I definitely don't think you're going to find it very often. I would assume that a good portion of the albums that went out to family and friends, or were distributed in some way from their little town there in Wisconsin. And yes, I saw how nice and carefully I was putting everything back, even though that's a generic protector thing. Still don't really like wrinkling stuff up or tearing anything. Not enough rough shape already after all these years. Okay, now this one is by a band called the Droogs. It's a test pressing of the album Kingdom Day. Now, Kingdom Day is not that hard of an album to find. It is actually one of my favorite albums from the 1980s. So I really wish this band had gotten a lot more popular. There's a song on here called Collector's Item that is definitely one of the greatest guitar-based alternative songs from that time. And there goes my little track list that I made up a long time ago flying. Basically, press information. This wasn't, this particular test pressing was set out for either going to a radio station or as a promo item to get reviewed. It was released on PVC Records, which you probably remember was it was an import of Passport Records. They typically brought in stuff from outside the United States. A lot of stuff they did were bands that were signed, bands from Germany or the UK or elsewhere that were to be signed a lot of times in the future, and to other bigger labels. But this one, yeah, Droogs never got really that popular, unfortunately. But yeah, they really should have. That is a band that really should have gotten there. I got this in a small thrift store back probably very early 90s. I cannot even remember what the store was. I think it was either off of 35th Avenue or off of 19th Avenue in Phoenix, but it wasn't one of the big main thrift stores or anything like that. Next one I want to show you is this guy here. This is laureate. Now, my Russian is rusty, and so I apologize for any Russians out there who are going to get mad at me for the pronunciation here, because I have not spoken it in a long, long time. But laureate, Festivalier Sieni Rytmi Tbilisi 80. And it is basically, it's not a live recording. This was a number of studio recordings of bands that participated in the Tbilisi 80 music festival in Georgia, what was then the Soviet Republic of Georgia, back at that particular time. Now, the reason why this has some significance is not always because he was on it, even though Автограф is on there, Machine of Rimini, also Gunesh, which if you try to find any Gunesh albums, that is something that you would be paying a lot of money for. But no, this is known, the festival is known for a band that's not included on here because they got banned from the festival. Akvarium, one of the biggest Soviet rock bands ever, with Boris Gorbenchikov on lead vocals. He did a few, I guess he did some stuff on stage that wasn't meant to be homosexual, but it was Soviet times. So somebody decided, oh, this is rebellious, this is homosexual, this is not right. I think he stood up, I think he laid down and had his cello player play something on top of him or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something completely and totally innocuous, which the judges decided, oh my God, they're gay. So they got expelled from the festival. They didn't win any prizes. The festival actually was also a contest, so there were prizes around. They didn't get on the album, but even though press was very much controlled, it's truth anywhere. Any press can be good press, depending on how you spin it. And so that added a bit of a rebelliousness to Akvarium, to a band that basically sounds like a combination of Velvet Underground sometimes and Jethro Tull. Getting kind of a rebellious vibe going there. And well, it helped. And they, of course, became one of the most popular bands there, and their albums eventually were released officially on Melodia after Gorbachev took power. And even though occasionally they still had stuff removed from there, took a while to get an actual, real version of Radio Africa out there to where everybody could see it. Okay, so we're going to go on to the 45s. This one here is a band called the Electric Elves. This is a garage psych single. First side is called Hey, Look Me Over. Second side, there we go. It's a little bit better. Second side is It Pays to Advertise, which, yeah, we were just talking about that. The Electric Elves, I'm sure most Dio fans will remember, was the name of the Elves before they became the Elves. This is right after they changed their name from Ronnie Dio and the Prophets and completely changed the sound around and everything. No more of the beat music or the Italian-American crooner stuff that he was doing early on. We are now into late 60s garage psych territory. And this is really good, actually, even though no, Hey, Look Me Over grabbed something from some other song. I can't remember what song it was. And you start hearing Dio's, you don't hear the metal vocal yet, but you start hearing more of Dio's actual voice that you would recognize more so than prior. I do not think this ever got an actual regular release. It's on MGM Records. And it's every release I've ever seen is a special disc jockey, the DJ version, not for sale. And I think that's basically the way it was. I don't think that ever got actual distribution. The later Elves records did, Amber Velvet and Walking in Different Circles. Those got some regular distribution, but as for that, it didn't. And of course, Elves became Elf. Elf then got hired on to be the backing for Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. And then, unfortunately, Blackmore fired everybody except Dio, and then 2 albums later fired Dio. So, but Dio, of course, very much landed on his feet. Next one up here is The Warriors. This one is called You Came Along, and it is backed, and it is not in the most wonderful condition, but beggars can't be choosers sometimes. It's backed by Don't Make Me Blue. Now, this is a very slight beat song from the early 1960s. It did not go anywhere. This is the copy. Yes, 1964. This was released, and there was the only single that was ever released too. I wouldn't say it's a wonderful song or anything, but it has some history. Even though he's not singing lead on it, John Anderson of Yes is playing, I believe, is playing rhythm guitar and providing background vocals. I know he provided background. I can't remember if it was, I believe it was guitar, because I don't think he plays bass at all. So, but yeah, that was the first recording that Yes's John Anderson was on. And then after a little bit of time, he started performing as Hans Christian Andersen for a few singles before joining Mabel Greer's Toy Shop. And then, of course, they evolved into Yes, and everything from that is history. Next one. Now, I think you can tell by my t-shirt that I am a pretty decent Residents fan. So our last two are both going to be the Residents. Now, even though this is stuff that you probably don't have, I'm sure that if anybody in the vinyl community is a Residents fan, they have this. It is not easy to find. It's easier to find than Satisfaction, than an original copy of Satisfaction, but it's the Beatles play the Residents, and the Residents play the Beatles. And by the way, just in case any YouTube censors are watching, those parts are blacked out there. They kind of airbrushed them out on there, so don't go getting your Don't go clutching your pearls and thinking that I'm showing off stuff I shouldn't be showing on YouTube. So now, the difference between this and whatever other copies you may have out there or may have seen, these were numbered. These had, I forget exactly how many there were. I think there were 500, may have been 250. I think it was 500 because I think the 250 was the was Satisfaction. I think this one was 500. So your normal copies of these are numbered. This one, if you'll look down there, see if I can get that clear. If not, I do apologize, but you'll see it says, instead of a number, it says AP for advanced promo. As far as I know, this was never sent out as it was meant as an advanced promo, but was never sent out as an advanced promo. Reason I am pretty sure about that is because I remember when this sold at auction back in the early 2000s. I did not get it at that particular time. I had absolutely no money. So I couldn't afford a lot of the stuff when Ralph America and everything was getting rid of a lot of old material that they had. So they were clearing out their vaults and getting rid of a lot of test pressings and other material that they had just sitting around. And this was, I believe, one of those items. I ended up either buying it from the person who bought it from Ralph America or ended up buying it from whoever they bought it from. I mean, the next person in the line. So I know it's not that many steps away from just being right out of the Ralph America vaults. Now, of course, if I'm going to be showing something residence that most people are not going to have, it's this little puppy here. And I have the records over here completely separated from the cover. Both records in here. This is Santa Dog, not the version that came out a few years ago on, I think it was something Viaduct. But it was a re-release for Record Store Day. It's not some of the more recent stuff that's come out. This is an original from 1972. 250 of these made, I believe. Or may have been 500. I can't remember without all the information just sitting in front of my face. But most of these, a lot of the run was not ever released simply because it didn't come out right. A lot of the run that was released was sent to other people. Was sent to famously to Frank Zappa and to Richard Nixon, which was the one that you might see on the CD they put out called Refused, which is also worth a tiny bit of money now. But if you know anything about this, you also know that most of these ended up with a problem with the ink where it got closed before the ink got dried and it got ripped to hell. This one, pretty much clean. Has the Ralph signature on there, the misnumbering. This is number 19 out of 20, which is definitely not 19 out of 20. And basically signed by Santa Dog, also down there. And I will put this little puppy back away nicely and carefully. This cover was silk screened. If you want to know what that part is, that's not water staining, that's the glue from the original process of making the record. The glue didn't exactly set right, so any original copies you're going to find of this, you're going to see that, and you can actually feel it on there where the glue is and everything. But a lot of times you're only going to find these. These and this, it's not where I found these first and this next. This is the whole package. This is as it came. Well, not as it came, because originally I'm sure these were in there, but I don't want to ruin this cover because the cover is actually the rarer part of the thing here. It's two singles. Everything's made to look like an insurance card, and it is pretty much one of those holy grail items if you're a resident collector, and I was able to get it Probably paid a bit more than a lot of people would think it's worth, but yeah, that thing's not leaving my collection until I leave this earth. So I wasn't too upset about having to pay a little bit extra for it. So anyway, that is my 10 records that I don't think anybody else is going to have in the vinyl community. And hope everything, well, hope you stayed through it. Hope you can hear me. Hope this isn't too much of an insult to your senses, but I try to make it as good as I can here. So, hey, if I do this in the future, I'll try and actually make it look professional. But anyways, thank you very much for watching and happy collecting.